Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So for the last couple of days, we've been working on one-step and two-step linear equations. Now we're going to deal with multi-step linear equations. It's similar to what you've been doing before, but there's just going to be, instead of just one x, there's going to be multiple variables of the same kind. What I need you to do, though, first is recall something that we called like terms. Like terms are terms that have the exact same variable and exponent, and we can add or subtract like terms depending upon the sign. Now, if you look at the example, these five I've got right here, you've got negative 7x, 4, negative 7, 9x, and 4xy. Now, can you figure out which terms are like each other? Well, the first pair of terms that I see that are like each other, that have the exact same variable and exponent, well, this is negative 7x. It has an x to the exponent of 1, and so does this, 9x. We would not include 4xy because although it has an x to an exponent of 1, but we don't bother writing it because we know that anything to an exponent of 1 is itself. These negative 7x and 9x are not like 4xy because of the y. That's what makes this term different than these two that I've encased in red. Now, the other pair of like terms is positive 4 and negative 7 because they're both just numbers or constants. So those are like terms in blue, these are like terms in red, and this guy here is on his own, 4xy. Okay? So that was one thing you learned in grade 9. The next thing I need you to recall from grade 9 is something called the distributive property. And the distributive property is when you're multiplying a term outside the brackets to every term inside the brackets. What I like to do is I like to think of this like a dealer at a poker table. The dealer can only deal cards to the people that are sitting at the poker table. So this negative 3 can only multiply terms that are inside these round brackets here. If there was another term outside over here, like, I don't know if it was like, let's say, like plus 7, this negative 3 would not multiply this 7. Okay? It can only multiply the terms that are inside the brackets. So let's do some distributive property. So you have negative 3 times x minus 4. So you can take negative 3 times x and negative 3 times negative 4. So just to write that out, you have negative 3 times x, and then minus 3 times negative 4. Now, this step I just wrote out, I'm starring it means it's unnecessary. We don't have to write this step. Once we practice this enough times, you'll be proficient at it. So now we just do our multiplication. So negative 3 times a positive x is negative 3x. And a negative 3 here times a negative 4 is a positive 12. And this is as far as you can go because this negative 3x is not like this 12. This would not give me 9x, okay? I cannot bring these two terms together because they are not like terms, okay? It's important to remember that. Let's look over here. I have a negative, and then in brackets 4 minus 3x. Do you recall when you just have a minus sign, what number is here but we don't bother writing it? That's right, yeah, it's negative 1. So a negative 1 is going to multiply the first term and the second term inside the brackets. Now, I'm not going to bother writing the starred step over here. I'm just going to write out the math. Negative 1 times a positive 4 is a negative 4, and negative 1 times a negative 3x is positive 3x. These terms are not like each other, so I cannot bring them together. And that's as far as I can go. Straightforward, no big deal, right? But now we get to something like this, where you have an example like this, and I'm going to ask you to solve for x. is where life's going to get a little bit more trickier. So right now, we can't play that game with the boxes, okay? Now we're stuck. We have to try and simplify. We have to expand and simplify here. So the first thing I suggest doing is let's deal with bed mass. So brackets, well, we can't simplify within the brackets here, and there's no exponents. But there is multiplication that we could do. The 3 times the x and the 3 times the negative 1. Well, that's going to give me 3x minus 3. Now recall, as I was saying, with the distributive property, I cannot take this 3 and multiply it by 1 because they are not inside the brackets here. So this is just still 3x minus 3, then plus 1. Now, what's that going to equal over on this side? Well, in that case, we can go 5 times the x is a 5 times the negative 2. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Now, do you see the like terms? Hopefully you do, because there's a like term here of 3x and 5x. Meanwhile, I have like terms of negative 3, positive 1, and negative 10. So if we want to solve for x, we have to get all the x's or the terms in the black squares on one side and all the constants or all the terms in the green squares on the other side. So what I would suggest to do here is first, before we can start shifting terms around the equal sign, we should try to simplify because it will make our life much easier. It's very easy to confuse terms when you're adding, subtracting, when you have multiple terms, because then you start to forget. So let's see. On the left side here, well, I have a couple of green squares or like terms, the constants. I can bring them together. So if I go 3x, well, a negative 3 plus 1 is positive 2. And to continue, on this side, there are no like terms, so I'm just going to have 5x minus 10. See now how I've highlighted the constants or the numbers in green? I want them all on one side. And the black terms, I want them all on one side. So, to do that, we use opposite operations. So I'm going to put all of the x's, the variables, on this side and all the numbers on this side. Okay, I'm just doing this just as a reminder. So x is over here, numbers over here. Now, if I want to get all the x's on one side, I have to take this 5x here and bring him over to the left. Now that either means by subtracting both sides by 5x or moving the positive 5x to the left side. A positive 5x when it crosses over becomes a minus 5x. I like doing balance, but that's just me. If you just prefer to move the term over, you can. Now look what I get. 3x minus 5x is 2x. I still have my plus 2 over here and my negative 10 over here. So I now have all the x's on one side. I need to get all the greens on the other side. So if it's positive 2 on this side, it becomes negative 2 on the right side, or you subtract 2 from both sides. So you now get 2x equal to negative 10, take away 2, which is negative 12. Excuse me one second. I meant to do that in green. Negative 10 take away 2 is negative 12. Now, I want to solve for x, so I'm going to divide both sides by, that's right, 2. So then I get x equal to negative 6. Okay, this is the new stuff that I'm going to have you guys practice today, okay? Now, Take your time. You have the questions assigned to you. And do the work in class, okay? You have to learn. The only way you learn this stuff is by practicing, okay? So best of luck. Try your best and come with questions tomorrow if you have any, okay? Work with each other. Thank you.